Hello, friends. I'm Tim Fisk, your guest host today on the Summit Up podcast from Summit Salon Business Center, your favorite Wednesday morning commute listen. I am so excited today to have my friend and colleague, Martin Spitzer. Martin is the Executive Vice President of the U.S. and Latin America for Innovshop USA, which we're going to learn a little bit more about today. But the conversation is going to be all about retail in salons and spas and what the heck is even happening. Martin, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm excited about our conversation, Tim. Thanks so much.
I mean, everybody feel like is talking about this and has been talking about this for a couple of years now. And, as a salon owner myself, it seems like this slippery thing that we're trying to get a hold of as, the digital ecosystem has exploded and online shopping has happened. And, I mean, this conversation about retail product purchases in salon, in spa, it's not new, right? Like maybe 10 years ago, we were having a different type of conversation. It was about something else like Amazon, or it was about, just the next new thing that was disrupting retail. This has been going on for a while, don't you think?
Absolutely. This is kind of an evolving conversation. So probably what we're talking about today might not even apply the next time we have the conversation, as
It's
fast as
happening so
everything's moving.
fast,
That's
so
right.
fast. Yeah, I mean, looking back at the last decade, and actually before that, before we do that, just gonna pause. So, Martin, tell me a little bit about you. Like, we work together actually, and I haven't actually asked you where it is that you come from in this industry and how you got into this kind of innovative tech and working with Innovshop.
Well, thanks. And I'm based out here in Southern California, and quite honestly, it's been really great to get involved over the past 10 years or so in the beauty industry. I'm not an industry insider like you are, Tim. I was kind of recruited into the industry by Innovshop France, which started a relationship with L'Oreal, probably going back about 25 or 30 years, and they needed some sort of assistance kind of launching all of these initiatives and digital tools in the United States. So I got together with the Innovshop France guys that I knew from a previous life, and my background has always been in technology and also retail display. So I figured it was a kind of a good fusion to extend that expertise into the beauty and salon industry.
Yeah, my salon company is 23 years old, and I remember it must have been like 2005 or 2006. We had these monitors that were coming out. I think Redken was doing the initiative, and they were at the station. The monitors were
Right.
at the station, and we had those installed. That was Innovshop, yes?
That's right. Those are the we called it Redken TV at the time, and that was kind of a legacy program that we learned from. Let's put it that way. But yeah, we evolved very much since then.
I just remember it was like so cool to have that at the time. We just thought we were pretty ahead of the curve by having that, and and we've just seen more and more come from Innovshop too. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was during the, if you recall, the old Salon Emotion time, where the 7 steps of the customer journey that L'Oreal was really promoting and pushing, and that we were kind of an integral part of developing that customer journey by use of some of these digital tools that we're going to be speaking about.
Right. So Innovshop is like really ahead of the curve, but just let's think back like 10 years, Martin. Like what do you think has evolved over the past decade when it comes to retail, the retail experience and particularly the in-salon retail experience?
Well, if I'm going back 10 years, at that point, a lot of the retail was kind of the boring product wall display with dusty shampoo bottles, and that doesn't work anymore. Nowadays, everybody wants to have a luxurious shopping experience. I mean, a guest is coming in for a $400 cut and color treatment, so they expect a higher aesthetic and more of a kind of a retail experience for that price point. So that's kind of where the evolution begun.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. Like we've seen the cost of the services that people are consuming go up and up over the last decade. Has the actual retail or shopping experience that you provide in your bricks and mortar keeping up with that and providing it on kind of like that luxury or premium experience level?
Yeah, that's right. And really a lot of that is thanks in part to some of the big box players like, the Ultas and Sephora's of the world. They kind of changed the game where, their version of this experiential beauty which is really blending the digital innovation with, kind of the human-centered service, really made the salon industry kind of up their game to, kind of introduce some of these new initiatives and digital tools. So we were kind of forced to where we were because some of the trends were going in the wrong direction, which we had to reverse. So really upping our game in retail was a big part of that.
Yeah, we talk about Sephora and Ulta, and you talk to a lot of salon owners, and they kind of like point the finger at them as like one of the reasons why their retail sales are slipping. And regardless of whether or not that's the case, I think really the takeaway is like these retail brands are disrupting the way that retail is actually put out there, and they're providing a more of an immersive experience, an interactive experience for their guests while they're there. They're introducing AI now in that retail shopping experience, and instead of thinking of that as something that's taking away from us, I think we should use it as inspiration to elevate the experience that we're providing inside our salons.
Well, I agree 100%. And plus, you talk about the Amazons of the world kind of changing everybody's expectation as far as what fulfillment should look like. That's also the other part of the equation where there's, kind of an introduction of this omni-channel fulfillment plan where you could, buy online, pick up at the salon. You can have a fulfillment program or replenishment program. And really, that's kind of a must-have for salons nowadays. So that's the other part of the evolution is really how the guest is coming into contact with the product and how they're purchasing it and how frictionless that purchase takes place.
So you are seeing situations where salons are setting up like Amazon stores, and they're able to sell online with pickup in store.
Yeah, there's definitely a big part of that. A lot of times when you wind up on a salon website, you don't want to be redirected to another website. So maybe that journey, that frictionless journey, occurs actually on the salon website through an e-commerce page. There's a lot of players like obviously Salon Interactive and some of those other big players in the market that really facilitate that frictionless transaction, which everybody's looking for.
Yeah, I build a lot of websites, as you know, for Summit, and we always have a products page, and we really lean into Salon Interactive, and making sure that those salons have that link that the guests can actually have a digital experience if they want. But I'm much more interested in the analog experience, what happens inside the four walls. So we were disrupted. We're disrupted by Sephora. We're disrupted by Ulta. What are we gonna do now? And what do customers expect? Like, what do you think? Like, let's get a little more granular. What are they really expecting from their retail experience?
Well, I think a lot of customers nowadays are pretty well educated, but they expect kind of an education and expertise blended in with their marketing. They just don't want to have a promotion thrown at them. So there's a lot of, as you know, user-generated content. There's how-to videos. There's pre-consultations and a lot more transparency on ingredients and education. The biggest challenge in our industry, Tim, is education content gets stale very quickly. So it needs to be updated, and it needs to be fresh, and it needs to be relatable. So I think for us, what the expectation is from the consumers, I think it needs to be fast-paced. It needs to be very relevant to the consumers to kind of hold their attention. And, a lot of these major brands, they do very well with their kind of global brand ambassadors, but in many times, if they see their own stylist up on the screen talking about a product or service or how-to, it's even more impactful than the national brand ambassador. So quite honestly, for me, I always like to see that there's a blend of that user-generated content to kind of fill the gaps.
Yeah. Full disclosure, everybody that's listening, I actually do have Innovshop in my own salon company. We've had it for many years now, and we have a monitor that actually points out to the street because we're in a very walkable neighborhood. A lot of people walking by, a lot of foot traffic, and we're able to actually put up content, but then we also get fed content from our brand partners at L'Oreal. Can you explain a little bit about like the content, the relationship that Innovshop has with the brands and how that actually helps salons?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So what we do is we have direct relationships with all the brand marketing managers and leadership. So if there's a new product from Redken that's hitting the shelves on July 1st, we gain access to that content directly from Redken, and we have the ability to put that in a library. So all the salons that have that brand on the shelf, they have an opportunity to include that as part of their playlist, let's call it. So a lot of times there's a conversation between the rep and the salon owner and ourselves to really kind of curate a customized playlist that really starts to emphasize maybe a new product launch, or maybe there's some special events going on within the salon. But all that brand content that we get from the brands, from the digital marketing teams, that is as good as gold, because it serves as a real backbone for a lot of the playlists that you see on the Innovshop screens.
I didn't ask you this ahead of time, so I apologize if I'm putting you on the spot. But like, do you have any data on like, what's happening in salons that don't have any type of digital experience in their retail space versus the ones that do?
We do actually. We've been in the game for 10 years or so, so we're always pressed to provide ROI data back to L'Oreal. And it's not just for regular digital; it's user generated content versus brand content, and it's interactive display content versus let's call it static display content. So we have all sorts of data to kind of support. And what we found is the most impactful content that's out there is user-generated content that has a level of interactivity to it. So what I'm speaking about specifically is a guest would lift a product off the shelf, and the content on the screen would change to reflect what they just lifted up, and that gives them a really powerful message. Actually, if you want hard numbers, that's a 140% increase of all the products that are on display in that type of scenario. So it's a really powerful ROI.
So 140% increase in sales for those products that are part of this interactive digital experience that's being provided in the salon. And I do want to talk about that in a second too, but you talk about user-generated content. And when I think of user-generated content, the first thing I think about is social media, right? Like people creating content for the brands that they use, and then those brands using it. Like, what does user-generated content look like in a salon?
So a lot of times, and again, it's not a Hollywood production. We're talking very raw, organic content. It's basically an iPhone, held in a stylist face or on a tripod, and it says, "Give me 15 seconds about why you like this product, or why you recommend this product, or why it's important for your guests." And we get really, kind of TikTok style or Instagram Reel style content that we're able to put up on the screen, and that's kind of what has the best engagement, and it's the best conversion rate as well, which is interesting. So by that, it holds the guests' attention longer, but it also results in a conversion a lot more often. And there's other factors that are part of that equation, which is some of the average ticket. So the uplift as far as pulling through other products and service also goes up when it's a UGC based content reel, as opposed to something that's just coming from one of the brands.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, UGC, user-generated content. So this idea that you could take something as dynamic as TikTok or your Instagram Reels and actually have it playing in some shape or form, whether it's in an interactive way or even just in a static way on a monitor inside the salon, to increase engagement in the space and drive sales in the space.
Right. Yeah. We love playing around with all different things. So we might say, okay, here's what we're going to try for the month of June. We're going to have a stylist, or the month of July, saying these are my 5 favorite products for the month, and here's why. Oftentimes we tweak it up a little bit, where the stylist would say, this is really what I'm recommending to my guests because of the weather or the conditions or whatever is going on in that particular time. And it really serves as almost a pre-consultation, Tim, where a guest is able to watch this video content, and by the time they get back to their chair, they have enough data where they're able to kind of start a very organic conversation with the stylist, and it really leads, in my opinion, to a more powerful consultation.
Okay, great. So let me just break this down a little bit, what I've heard so far. So you've said that like a trend is in having more of like a digital or immersive experience or interactive experience inside a bricks and mortar shopping experience. So that's a big trend that's happening right now. But you also pointed to this idea of education and like ever changing or evolving or trend driven content that happens maybe from brands, but then also intermixed with user generated content. So
You
we've broken down the pieces, right? Did I miss anything?
No, that's perfect. You lined
Okay.
it up perfectly.
So if that's what's going on, and like now I want to connect it to what like actually Innovshop does. So tell me a little bit about the new technology that you guys have out there that actually marries all of these things that we just talked about, and how that's being delivered in salons and spas.
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, we understand that running a salon is more than a full-time job. So not every salon has the luxury of having like a full-time digital marketing coordinator. So we don't want to add this to the job description of somebody in the salon. So we actually have the capabilities to push this content out to the salon. So with a quick kind of check-in call, we have a monthly check-in call with most of our salon customers, and they kind of mention what type of content they want to emphasize during a particular month, or what brands they wanted to emphasize. Sometimes even the reps or the brand reps are involved, and we basically put a playlist together that kind of speaks to that, whether it's a special promo that's happening, or there's maybe a loyalty program that's being emphasized for the month, or there's all sorts of maybe a new gift set is being launched within the salon. So we kind of custom tailor that content based upon that input, and then we push the content out to the salon with the frequency of every time a guest comes in, they're seeing something new, because like we mentioned earlier, the content gets stale pretty quick. So if they see the same thing today and then they come back in 45 days and the same content is up on the screen, it loses a lot of its impact. So a lot of what we do is really give guidance about what that playlist should look like. How long should it be? Maybe there's different content appearing on different screens in different parts of the salon, whether it's in the consultation area, the retail area, processing, the front window, like what you have in your salon. So there's all sorts of different avenues for us to kind of curate a very powerful playlist that kind of maybe mimics the amount of time that a guest would dwell. So if they check into their appointment and they have maybe 5 minutes before their stylist brings them back to the chair, maybe we create that 5-minute playlist in that particular area, and they're able to get a lot of great information. So they're armed and dangerous by the time they get back to their stylist.
Yeah, that's great. So like when we're coaching to marketing, branding, promotions within the salon, we're talking about that 45 to 60-day window so that everybody gets a chance to experience the promotion. Well, the same thing, we can apply that to the visual experience that they have in the salon as well, right? So
Right. Yeah, and I wanted to emphasize that a lot of what we do, I mean, we're really creating, in essence, a TV channel for each individual salon, because each salon has something different. They might have that brand content as, like I said, a backbone of their playlist, but then there's so much more. There's educational, there's inspirational, maybe there's even before after images of some of their guests, or maybe there's a special event happening, a wedding party, or really whatever's happening within the salon. That's all fair game to put up on the screen, and a lot of it is stuff that ultimately winds up on TikTok or Instagram, but sometimes it's done with Canva or whatever platform that the salon owner uses to create their promos or their specials. So we kind of put all that together. We also have a tool that we've created. It's actually an app that really merges and blends content together based upon the look and feel of the salon, because what's on the screen should kind of be very familiar based upon what the salon website looks like, and what the the aesthetic of the salon. So even though we're not really creating something from scratch, we're really blending a lot of very important content from the brands and from the salon itself to create a very uniformed professional look.
you just hit upon something, and I want to talk about this app that you're talking about. Like, it's kind of one of my biggest things. Like, working with my brands, who I love so much, I still want to make sure that my own company has its own identity, and it does. Like, it does have a very established identity digitally, whether it's the website, social media, our email marketing, etc. And I want to lean in, and I want to lean on my brands and help to help me create content, but I also want it to look and feel like my company when somebody walks in. So talk to me a little bit about this app. I've not heard of this yet.
Yeah, it's actually pretty new, but you're 100% right. So the big city, New York, sidewalk shot for the, Redken or Kerastase works great in the city. But if you're in a more of a rural community, or if your customers are more eco-conscious or focused, or more kind of granola style, let's say,
Hello.
that's not going to resonate with them. It really won't. So, and that kind of takes away from the overall brand message within the salon. So what we do is we have an app. It's called Halo Artist, specifically designed for the salon community, and we're able to take those elements and those characteristics of your salon branding and really merge them with the content that we get from the Redkins and Kerastases of the world to really honor what that look and feel should be, so it really resonates better with your guests. So that was a big miss, I think. You go into some salons in the center of the country in Middle America, that's not the same look and feel that you get from a salon that's in Los Angeles or New York. And I think the ability to be able to customize that is very powerful. So we recognize that as a gap, certainly.
So are you actually like talking about AI? Is this something that you're using as part of
It
this tool?
That's exactly what it is. It's a proprietary AI that we created, and we thought it was really important. I feel like, for us, there's a huge opportunity with AI, really making everything around the chair more relevant. I mean, we're talking about incorporating all the promotions at the salon, the chair recommendations, the aftercare follow up. Everything has to be unlocked to generate this content very quickly, very economically, and it has to be done to scale. So for us, we created our application to specifically satisfy that gap that we saw was present.
Wow. See, this is why you said to me next time we talk, it might be a totally different conversation. Like, this is how fast it's actually changing and moving, right? Yeah.
Well, I'll blow your mind. The next thing that we're working on is actually demographic sensing within our screens, where it knows that it's a middle-aged woman with short blonde hair in front of the screen. So let's go ahead and show them content that's relevant for that age demographic, or that or that look or feel or whatever. So it's very intelligent content. So, for example, maybe an older salon guest isn't going to know necessarily who Sabrina Carpenter is. So maybe that ad is going to fall on deaf ears. But if if the demographic sensors are triggering the correct content to be played, it's always going to hit every time. So that's another use case of AI that I feel is going to take us to that next level.
And it's so here right now. I just was meeting with another one of our partners and friends, and they were showing me an AI where I was having a conversation, almost like we are right now, where this AI avatar was on the screen looking at me almost as if it was a Zoom, and it could tell me what color my shirt was, what brand it was, because it could see the Polo logo. Like, it was the trippiest thing. I couldn't even believe it. So, like, this is what's coming down the pike, and there could be cameras inside the monitors themselves that actually can sense when a person's there, or maybe like something about it could glean some information about the person. As weird as that is, you guys, like, this is what's actually happening, what's actually coming.
Yeah, and I don't want to scare any of the listeners, Tim. We're not, storing data. We don't know who that person is. We don't have their confidential information. There's none of that. Basically, what we're doing is we're just taking a very superficial examination as far as their look and demographics, and then kind of adjusting the content on demand for that particular person, which I think is, we're testing that out right now, and we feel that the engagement numbers are compelling enough to move forward with this, throughout different salons that are willing to use it.
Do you guys ever have conversations about like the psychology of the buyer and like what's happening like when they're in the space?
We always do, and obviously, the different age groups that we work with, they all want something a little bit different, quite honestly. And there's other brands that we look to. There's other industries that are doing well that the salons could learn from, actually, and
Yeah,
we
talk
really
to me about
study.
that.
So yeah, there's a lot of outdoor and activewear brands. There's a lot of natural or organic food brands. There's even some of the fast casual dining that you've probably been to are doing some amazing work. We look at some of these campaigns and we're taking a lot of notes because their campaigns and marketing really revolve around more of an emotional storytelling and social empowerment and inclusion and LGBTQ advocacy. That really resonates with younger folks, and we want to make sure that we're bringing some of that knowledge into the salon space, because everybody's very aware. You talk to your younger stylists, and they're very concerned with the environment and conservation, and really that type of messaging could be very powerful. So we're learning a lot from other industries. We're not just have our blinders on in the salon industry. We're looking at all sorts of best practices for the different age groups and demographic groups that we have.
To put you on the spot again, and apologize. Is there like a campaign or a strategy that you've seen in another industry that you're just like, whoa, this is amazing. Like this is where we need to go in the salon industries, or something that.
Well, it's a name that we all know, but Nike continues to impress, and they constantly reinvent themselves, and they constantly are able to add that emotional element to a lot of their campaign materials that they do. And I really look up to them as far as the brand marketing strategy that they have, because they're always kind of reinventing themselves as nobody wants to be that old tired brand that that their parents wear or whatever, but these guys do a phenomenal job staying relevant to all generations. So I really look up to what they're doing, and try to maybe borrow some of the best practices and bring it into the salon space.
Yeah, we're talking to you, legacy salons, right? Like,
Yeah.
having a salon that's over 20 years old, it's not always a plus to advertise that you're 20 years old in an industry where people want what's new, what's fresh. But there are brands like Nike that are actually turning it out, and like they're actually leading what's new, and they are the ones that we look to when we want to see what's new. And I think that's something that we all have to kind of remember in our industry, that there's an advantage to having been around for a long time.
Right.
But you have to innovate while you're doing it in order to take full advantage of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I really think that there's so much more to learn. I spend, for a bald guy, I spend a lot of time in salons. I spend a lot of
Yeah.
time in, and I'm always learning, and I'm always so impressed about the conversations that I hear, and the engagement and everything, because the default is, someone's going to come in and they're just going to be on their phone and scrolling through Instagram or emails, and they just, we in our industry we have a captive audience, and they're happy to be there, right? And we need to use that time to educate and inspire. And I feel like some of the digital tools might be necessary to kind of augment that interaction and that true consultation that needs to take place.
So, let's talk about the digital tools. And I don't want, obviously this to be an ad for Innovshop, though I do want people to they'll go visit the website, check out the notes, you guys. This place is amazing. And there's a lot of really cool things for you to uncover, and it is accessible. So it's not out of reach for salons. It is very much in our wheelhouse. But let's talk about the kind of ecosystem that Innovshop could build within a salon. You had mentioned the various stations or the various places within the space that guests spend time. What would it like an ideal setup look like for you?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I want to preface that by saying, and thanks for the kind words, but we never want to turn a salon into Times Square. It's not about putting all these giant screens everywhere and just overload of all these digital flashing lights. That's not our intention at all. But what we like to do is really blend into the background of the salon, and maybe there's a small screen on a shelf that adds a little bit of interactivity to a retail display, or maybe there's something around the shampoo bowl area or the consultation area that really gets somebody's attention. But what I feel works the best is when the stylist is able to use these digital tools as something that kind of helps them along with their consultation, because artists don't like to be salespeople sometimes, and that's a
Yeah, yeah.
constant struggle in our industry. And quite honestly, it's that's maybe some of the negative trends that we need to reverse, where I actually feel that it's important for a stylist to explain in great detail what they're using in their guest's hair and why, but maybe they don't know, and maybe it's something that needs to be in a digital format for them to kind of use as a backdrop. So a lot of the screens that we see are in those 7 steps of the customer journey, that going back to the old salon of motion days, where you're inviting people into your salon with a screen that's facing out to the street, and then there might be something in the registration area, and then there's maybe an interactive display in the retail area that a guest is invited to interact with, and then maybe there's something at the station itself, a small screen that they're able to kind of get some more info, or in the processing bar. So there's a lot of nooks and crannies in a salon that are really untapped, and maybe there's static signage in there right now that is just not doing the job. So we're able to really improve that guest experience, I think, is the overall goal that we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think, it's not all about like promoting retail. Like, Kerastase has the scope that actually analyzes the scalp. So that's an interactive experience. And we have that in
Right.
our salon. And the guest can hold the iPad and look at their scalp and see, which is, you want to sell a scalp treatment, show them that, right? Like it's like a no-brainer, right, for them. And so it really is coming from all directions. It's not just about selling in retail, and it is about education. I think we haven't talked a lot about this lift and learn, which is a new, it's not so new, but a lot more people are curious about this new product that you guys have. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. And that kind of falls in the category of interactive displays. So a lot of times there's, the top 5 products. Maybe it's on a feature table, or maybe it's on a special section of a retail wall. And the guest is invited to interact with any of these products that are associated with this digital interactive display. And really what happens is there's small sensors in each of the bottles. So when somebody actually lifts something off the shelf, the content on the screen changes to reflect what they just lifted up. So it looks like it's kind of magic, but it really has some really cool science behind it. And what that causes is, someone lifts something off the shelf and they see a video, or they see the product ingredients, or they see a kind of a really cool hero image, or maybe some user-generated content. Maybe it's,
Yes.
"Hi, this is Tim. You just lifted up my favorite product for the month of July, and here's why I recommend it to all my guests." It really does provide that extra level of, and people's shopping experiences are different. Not everybody likes to have a sales associate breathing over their neck when they're shopping around, and this way they're able to learn a little bit. And if they do want to ask some more questions, then there's many people within the salon that are willing to provide insight. But I mean, you mentioned Kerastase, and Kerastase is more and more like a prescription for your hair. There's, the Fusiodose and all those different serums that are out there. It's not easy to explain why certain thing is easier than or required for your hair type or your texture or whatever. So I think these interactive displays and digital tools are really powerful as far as guiding the customer to the correct prescription, really. And that could be done in a variety of different ways with a lift and learn, or we could create a digital touchscreen with a short hair quiz, or there's all sorts of different digital tools that could be implemented to guide the guest to the right prescription that they potentially would need.
Talking about education, I mean, just a couple things I want to say, like for anybody listening, and we're talking really about getting products in our guests' hands, but more to the point, so that they can recreate their look at home and preserve the integrity of their hair. Their best hair day doesn't necessarily have to be just the day that they leave the salon. And
Right.
if we're doing this with integrity, we have to agree that like our guests deserve to know how to look and feel their best every single day. And that means we're going to have to educate them on which products are right for them, and like how to use them in the salon. And that can happen digitally. It can happen from the stylist. Best if it happens maybe both, at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think every well done consultation that I've ever observed has some sort of version of this. Hey, if you want to maintain your look in between visits, here's what I recommend. These are the products. These are the techniques that you would implement at home. And like you said, that the best hair day doesn't necessarily have to be that very same day. They could really maintain their look if they have the right knowledge, if they have the right education, if they have the right products to do so. And that really kind of falls in with that consultation piece that, I think there's a big disconnect in our industry, quite honestly. A lot of stylists believe they deliver these wonderful consultations, but, maybe the they didn't deliver such a great consultation, and maybe they need some help elevating that consultation in order to really deliver all the appropriate information. It's not just your friend sitting in the chair. There's a lot of knowledge to share, a lot of education, and a lot more.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number from Salon Emotion, but it was something like 87% of service providers think that they've given a great consultation, and only 8% of guests feel like that they received a consultation. So a little bit of a disconnect there, a little bit of an opportunity maybe to bring a little bit more intention to your conversations with your guests. And I think also too of other places where people consume and they want to know a little bit more about what they're consuming. Craft beer, like I'm in New England, where there's like you just step out the door and you trip over a brewery, and like they want to know exactly what the provenance of the hops are and like exactly how the beer was made. Or people are doing this in the coffee world now too, and wanting to know more about coffee, or bean to bar, small batch chocolate. Like people want to kind of lift up the hood a little bit and understand a little bit more about the products that they're using. And tools like within the salon that can help are digital, right? In my opinion, we can really give them an opportunity without having to put all of the onus on the service provider to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And those tools could be transferred very easily from a device to the guest's phone themselves. Maybe if they want to take some knowledge home with them, it's as easy as scanning a QR code that's leading them to a collection of videos or tutorials or something, or maybe they're able to kind of sign up for a loyalty program or anything else. I mean, a lot of times what we do is we have signage and content on the screen that could take a guest to another journey on their own device, which so it's not just that hour and a half that they're in the salon. They're taking that home with them and learning a lot from home, from their couch, which I think is really important.
Wow, that's really interesting. Yeah, so like it's all continuing. The conversation continues outside of the salon as well. As an owner myself, like, and for anybody out there that's an owner operator still working behind the chair, the thing that freaks me out about all of this is like, how many calories am I going to have to put into this to actually make it live and be real? Like user generated content, is this just another like Instagram situation where I'm begging my stylist to create content? Like what kind of support's available to salons if they choose to go this route to make sure that they're just not creating a whole other full-time job for themselves?
Yeah, that's a good point. So what we give very specific details as far as even going down to how to hold the phone, how far away to record, and really what the process is. And these are not Hollywood productions, Tim. These are very quick videos that are filmed on oftentimes just an iPhone or someone's personal cellular phone, and we give them instructions on how to hold their phone and what to record, and we take that raw content and we kind of massage it through some of our platforms to make it look and feel. Sometimes we add text overlays or whatever the case may be to make it a little bit more readable. But really, it shouldn't be another full-time job. If that's what we're doing, is we're creating more work for the salon leadership by putting these screens and digital displays in place. It's kind of counterintuitive to what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to free up time. We're trying to improve the guest experience. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is we run into a lot of stylists that are not leveling up because they're not meeting their retail goals. It's not just a commission conversation. If they really want to level up, whether it's measured by RTS or units or however that it's being measured, they have to have some sort of culture of retail within that salon. So we might be able to unlock that for salons that are kind of struggling with that number.
Yeah, the juice is worth the squeeze in that case. And, if we're talking about every 60 days or so, like refreshing the content, and we're doing 2 or 3 of these UGCs to add into the brand content that's also there. So it's not all being put on the salon itself. Like that's what, 6 times a year that you have to have an afternoon and create some content.
That's right. And usually it's 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. This is not a very we're not looking to drag somebody down into the weeds here. We just we give them guidance, and oftentimes it's, like I said, 10 minutes a month, 15 minutes a month, and we have what we need to adjust the content.
I love this. So this is, again, accessible. The tech is accessible. The content creation is not so much of a burden. And I do want to say, like, what's at stake here? When it comes to these the culture of retail, as you called it, like it's important in our salons from a sustainability standpoint. So, like making sure that the salon company itself is sustainable. We're going to increase cash flow, profitability. We're going to be able to add more benefits for our stylists and our service providers. We're going to be able to renovate, right, and add new things and technology if we have more at our bottom line. And retail's really where that comes from because salons are running such a thin margin. So it's in it there for the salon itself. For the stylist, I think that guests that purchase retail and are able to recreate that look at home, they become like the most loyal clients. They're never going to leave you. So now you're actually building a really strong career based on trust and a loyal clientele. And then, of course, like what's in it for the guests here? Like, I can't tell you, even myself, and I'm in this industry, like how many bottles of something that I just decided to try are sitting in my closet in my bathroom. But people don't really know where to go when they're left to their own devices, and it results in a lot of disappointment, a lot of trial and error, a lot of wasted money on their part. So, like, getting really good with your retail game, I think it's more than just money. It's definitely more than just sales. It's about sustainability for the company. It's about loyalty for the service provider. It's about like real education and empowerment for those guests, and just it caps off an elevated salon experience.
Yeah, and you spoke about the kind of the razor thin margin sometimes, and it could very well be that the retail side of the house could very well make the difference between profitability and not profitability on a month to month basis, and just kind of moving that retail to service number up a few percentage points really goes a long way. I mean, we've all seen it, right? Where there's a guest in the chair and they're asking the stylist what they're using in their hair, and at that time the guest is just kind of searching on Amazon or Ulta or one of those other big box retailers for that product, and they're buying it in the chair, and it's a miss for everybody. I mean, there's such a huge driving force now to buy local and support your local, business, and that's kind of counterintuitive there, and maybe there's no malice intended, but it really affects everybody's pocketbook from that standpoint in the salon. So I really feel like there's an opportunity for us to have that conversation with the guest, but again, it has to be frictionless. It has to be easy. Those products should be waiting for the guest at checkout. They shouldn't have to stay around an extra 10 or 15 minutes till they're collected or till they check out or rebook. So there's a lot that goes into that point of sale process that should be considered. Everybody wants the best of both worlds. They want it to be fast and easy and convenient. So we have to really up our game across the board.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, again, like we're going to see some real results if we do that. This get into something I want to do, like a little bit of a lightning round. I just want to ask you a few questions, like see what
Sure.
you think.
Let's.
Is there a retail trend that you think that's overrated right now?
Yeah, I do actually. I think that there's a lot in retail right now that I think loyalty programs, as effective as they could be, I think that a lot of people think that if they sign their guests up for loyalty programs, they don't have to do anything else within the salon, and it really is a bit of a maybe a little bit. It puts people in a relaxation mode more than overrated, but I believe that there's so much more that goes into it. For me as a consumer, I want things to be targeted. So when I get something from a service provider or a retail store, I don't want it to appear like it's been sent to the other 10 million customers out there that are also on the same list. I want something to be very, kind of honed in on what my purchasing habits and what my buying patterns are. So for me, I think it's something that needs to be revisited and fine-tuned. I know you really focus on that and spend a lot of time thinking about the messaging that goes out to your guests. So I think that that's something that could really be honed in our industry.
100%. And it's actually the conversations are happening, and there are, salon softwares that are reimagining the way that those loyalty programs work and gamifying them. We'll have to bring you back when we have the conversation about loyalty programs, but absolutely, it's not just to set it and forget it. The old way of doing it is not the way to do it anymore. What is one of your favorite retail experiences that you've had outside of the beauty industry? Like, what's one of your favorite experiences?
Well, I like to touch and feel. So whenever I go into a Mac store, an Apple store, I really feel like I have the freedom to interact with the products, to lift them, to feel them, to touch them. And for me, it really is the perfect retail experience where, I could interact as much as I can, but if I need a professional, they're there. They're not over my shoulder, but they're there when I need them. So I really feel like that type of experience could be borrowed from and taken into the salon business. So that's really one that comes to mind.
That's great. If there was one thing that you would have a salon do tomorrow, like just to improve the retail experience that they're delivering to their guests, what would that one thing be?
I think the consultation process, I think that needs to be enforced and practiced and educated. I think that's the biggest miss right now, as far as what we're seeing is in some of the declining numbers. So, there's some scary numbers that I'm seeing as far as the amount of products that are being bought outside the salon. We really need to claw back some of that revenue. So I think an extra emphasis and training and using some of the summit coaching type of skill sets behind it. That's really how we're going to win in the salon industry.
That's great. I have one more question for you.
Please.
What is one of your predictions? Let's say it's 2030. What do you predict in
Wow.
retail?
2030, I think that it's going to be space age. People are going to walk into a salon. There's going to be a camera that senses and recognizes the consumer. Their products are going to be shown to them on a screen that's interactive, and then they're going to obviously all the look and feel as far as the try-on and the video interactivity that where you could see the different styles and the different looks, and that's all going to be just commonplace where if that is missing in a retail experience, it's going to seem like you've just walked into a general store from the 1800s. So that's going to be so front and center, but it has to be targeted. It has to be really relevant for each consumer, and that's what's really going to change the game.
You guys you heard it here first. The future is here. So buckle up, everybody. If people want to get in touch with Innovshop and learn more about it, how are they going to get in touch with you?
Well, I'd love them to visit our website, which is innovshopusa.com. That's INOVSHOP USA.com. And, go ahead and drop us a line. We love to speak to salon professionals. We do all sorts of free consultations. We do site visits and store visits where a lot of times we're just kind of the digital transformation consultants that a lot of the salons use to help them out with their journey to modernize and to keep relevant. So believe me, we have a lot of long-term relationships. I don't think we've sold customers one thing, but they call us, and we're always there to help them along their journey. So at some point, we think it's going to pay off for us. But yeah, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to speak salon. We eat, live, and breathe, the beauty industry. So we love to have these conversations face to face.
Thank you, Martin. And I loved having this conversation today and having the conversation about retail. And thank you for all of the innovation that you're bringing to our industry and helping us, really kind of crack this nut. So this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. And for all of you listening, this is Sum It Up. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks so much, Tim.